Nick, did you kind of have to not relearn how to draft? Because, I mean, like obviously you have so much experience, but it is different picking at the top, right? I mean, like there's different variables that first day, and y'all weren't used to picking that high, and now you're in Houston and you're building something. So naturally you're going to be picking a little bit higher. Was there an adjustment process for you?
Yeah, there's always different variables. I mean, the first year we were here, we didn't have a first or second round pick. So
Yeah.
there was 65, 70 players that were just going to go by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we were a little bit, better position. This year we had a little bit more flexibility and ammunition. It's funny. I was actually looking back 2008, when you came out, you were, got picked number 2 overall. That was one of the years we actually had the 7th overall pick. I think it
Slide
was a
would have
part of
been
the
nice.
New
Slide
England
would have
trip.
been nice. Yeah, it would have
So
been nice to slide.
so we had 7, and
Uh-huh.
that I was telling D'Amico this morning, like we made like the secret workout trip out to Charlottesville to work you out the
Would
week of the
grow.
draft.
Yeah, would grow.
So we did that. I mean, Matt Groh picks us up at the airport, so it's
Yeah.
kind of funny. But then when you pick high in the draft, it's going to just open you up to more players that are available, right?
Yep.
If you're picking a little bit later, there's more than
Mm-hmm.
likely going to be 15 to 20 that, all right, you're going to evaluate everybody, but just realistically having the opportunity to get those players. So I'd say we've been positioned over the last 2 years, kind of the same 2, 3, 13, 14, somewhere in that range. So it just gives you a little bit more flexibility and optionality relative to the pool of players that might be available.
And how early in the process? Because he's my personal favorite out of all the guys, Stroud. How early in the process did you guys fall in love with him, and how did he separate? What was it about him that allowed him to separate?
Well, it's interesting. So you kind of go through the fall process, right? Our scouts went through the fall process, so we grade the players. So in December, January, then when we kind of had the coaching transition. So when D'Amico and the staff arrived in February, all right, we wanted to say, all right, let's kind of recalibrate. Let's give the staff an opportunity to watch the players, evaluate the
Right.
players, and kind of arrive at an endpoint. So there was a little bit of lag time that was involved, but CJ was a player that I think we had graded fairly consistent throughout the fall process. And really, from call it February, March, April, that's really the opportunity that you have to maximize the opportunity, the ability to get to really know a player, right?
Right.
You can watch a player, what he's doing, you can get information from the school, what they're telling you. But until you actually have a one on one interaction and you could sort of get a sense and a feel
Yeah.
for who the person is, like that's hard to do, right? So as we went through the process, we talked to CJ at the combine, sort of a quick, and that combine really, it's a quick 15, 20-minute intro. You're not making a decision based off of that. I mean, if you are, you're kind of ignorant, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a starting point. And with the underclassmen, that's really the first touch point. So combine, all right, then we knew we were probably going to bring, a group of players in for 30-man visits. We started those in March. CJ came through the door, had a good visit, and we kind of try to simulate the day to the best of our ability from start to finish. Here's who you're going to interact with. Here's who you're going to be involved on a day to day. And you get different perspectives from literally each area of the football operation. At the end of the day, say, all right, what did we all think? Because you're looking for consistency across the board. So the more we kind of dove deep, the more we spent time with him, like we were comfortable, we liked the player, and then we put it all together. And again, just his competitiveness, I would say his drive, his leadership starts to really come out of him a little bit when you're
Mm-hmm.
around him. Like this guy cares about football. He cares about winning. He wants to be great. And, there's going to be steps along the way that he's going to have to certainly take. And, we're going to be a big part of that, hopefully to help him.
How much did his performance, against Georgia, elevate his status for you guys? Because I feel like you can evaluate people on how they play week in and week out against the Northwesterns of the world, but there's 7 guys on that defense. Basically, they're going to play in the NFL. How does that game in the upper echelon of the competition that he faced? How much more does that weigh?
Yeah, and it's funny, Chris. We talked a lot about that. D'Amico and I talked a lot about that. And sometimes you get so caught up in maybe one game or one exposure, which is important,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to look at the overall arc. And I think the one thing that you saw from him and even their team a little bit was improvement from the beginning of the year because they didn't play that well against Notre Dame.
No.
So they didn't play well against Notre Dame. They won the game. Then they struggled against Oregon and lost the game. So they're kind of in this position like, all right, how's this going to go? And then as the year went on, they improved. And then from the end of the season, from the Michigan game until they played Georgia, collectively as a team, they probably had an opportunity to really improve and really spend time on getting ready to play a good team. So
Yeah.
you got to be careful about putting so much in that game. Now, he played well. They played well as a team offensively. They scored however many points they scored. But you have to be careful of using sort of one data point to allow that to just drive your overall decisions. But in the end, you take everything holistically, you try to put it all together and say, all right, this is what we have in the end, and we're comfortable with it, and then we're going to move forward.
How do you think, having the one dude, we know who we're talking about, Brady, for a number of years in New England, helped you or maybe hurt you because you didn't have to go through this process a lot where you guys had to reset at quarterback? I know you took some guys up high maybe to support or back him up, but, on that side of things, and then also, like, what did you learn from Brady as a young player as you apply some thinking to how you're going to roll CJ Stroud out and, how to best maximize his talent early and not burn him out?
Yeah, each player is different. So you have to take the individual and figure out what you feed them and just kind of look at their arc of development as they go. And, you had the good fortune of being around Tom. I think from the beginning of his career, like nobody really talks much about this, but in 2000, he was the fourth string quarterback. I wasn't even in New England, so he was literally the fourth string quarterback, but he would do things on his own, go in the bubble, take the practice wide receivers, go through the script. So I think you saw the drive and motivation and the work ethic were there. And then when he had the opportunity in 2001, which was my first year in the NFL, which I didn't know anything about NFL football, it was basically like, all right, like trying to figure out like where the field is. And he had a good training camp. Heward was the backup. Tom was the third quarterback, fourth quarterback. I think Bishop may have been there. And he earned the job as the backup to Drew. And then when Drew got hurt, and then kind of the rest is history. But I think the work ethic, the drive, the focus, and the motivation and the competitiveness to continually get better is really what separated him probably from other players, not only at his position, but across positions. So again, every player is going to be different. There's only one Tom, just like there's only one CJ, but that position, you're looking for certain qualities for that individual to possess, understanding it's arguably the hardest position to play in sports, and it's not going to happen overnight. So it's going to take a lot of purposeful work from a lot of people organizationally. But you're looking for certain criteria or dynamics, and you say, all right, you know what? There's some elements that, okay, we can sort of build around, but that position, like you almost have to each year just have an understanding of the players, of the position in its entirety so you can make a good decision. Because, I mean, realistically, and D'Amico and I have talked about this, you almost need like two quarterbacks on your team because inevitably, like that person is probably going to have to play. I mean, it's just that's just the way the league is designed. So one guy might end up playing a lot more, but in 2008, like we went through this, Tom gets hurt the first week. Matt had been in the system Castle for 3 years, going on 4 or whatever it was, and he took advantage of his opportunity and he went out and played pretty good football. So the team dynamic, the team element is important. So, and then take the individual and then kind of nurse him along the way and then put him in the best position possible that he can maximize himself.